Hey guys, how you going? I was just looking up, doing some research, and I came across this article from abc.net.au. Freeze, drying, shattering, dissolving, weird ways to dispose of a body legally. So what they mean here, they've got it worded very, very strange. Why don't they just write, why did they have to put it that way? Weird ways to dispose of a body, and then legally. Why couldn't they just say, um, we've come up with new ways to deal with overpopulated cemeteries or something. Why did they have to put it like that? That to me straight away I went, what? Oh my goodness. Anyway, then it shows someone with a shovel. So you do sort of get that vibe from this. Burial springs to mind quickly when you think about how to dispose of a body, but there are other ways. See, how have you? I want you to tell me how you're thinking of this before you get to the actual story. Because once I got to the story, I realised what they were saying, but the title and all this is like the picture. It's like they're trying to tell people how to dispose of bodies. And then I got to this bit, and Swedish biologist Susan Wee Masek is an entrepreneur of death, and the burial system she's developed is as unexpected as it is high tech. So what they're doing is coming up with new ways to dispose of bodies once you've passed. Like instead of cemeteries. The process dubbed Promission has so far been tested only on pigs. Their carcasses frozen using liquid nitrogen. I don't know if you can tell what I was looking at. I was researching pigs and instances. I was trying to find instances where people have been fed to pigs, and apparently the mafia used to do it in the 1980s. So, yes, not very nice, guys. The process dubbed Permission has so far been tested only on pigs. Their carcass is frozen using liquid nitrogen. Once crystalline and brittle, the cadavers are shattered by a short ultrasonic vibration until what was once a full-size pig is reduced to a form of porcine powder. No, thank you. Oh, I know you're dead when it happens, but I still don't think I'd like that. That just does not appeal at all. Being thrown in the bush is more appealing than that. The biological pulp is sifted and freeze-dried after being packed into a small biodegradable box. The odourless remains are placed in a shallow grave. Pigs were chosen to test the technology because of their anatomical and physiological similarity to humans, but the ultimate goal is to use the system on people. Ms. Wee Mazek says that will allow a more scientific and ecologically friendly form of burial, one in which the body is readily absorbed back into nature and not left to purify in a lacquered box 6 feet under. There is a clear ideological underpinning to the endeavour. It's about putting the dead to work in the service of nature. Oh yes, I can see where they're coming from now. You watch, there'll be something in this to somehow help the climate change. What Permission is offering is a new life to the soil, bringing new life to plants and flowers instead of seeing death as the final end, Miss Wee Masick says. It's also being marketed as a clean energy alternative. There you go. It uses far less electricity, yeah, of course, than cremation. Miss Wee Masick said that, and the nitrogen employed as part of the freezing process causes no pollution. It's a very natural product. Most people don't even know they breathe nitrogen every day. 78% of the air we breathe is nitrogen, she explains. When the gas companies are producing liquid oxygen for the hospitals, there will always be a little bit of extra liquid nitrogen that they don't need. So she plans to make use of that. Miss Wee Mazick claims her organisation, Promessa Organic, is now ready to build the world's first working promotorium, but the details of when and where are sketchy. Yeah, I don't know if anyone really is keen on that. Tell me what you think, guys, in the comments. And it seems they've been on the verge of launching for some time, at least since 2013. And this article was from 2018, I think it was June. Yeah, but this sort of made me think, what on earth? We need to go back naturally. Look, none of this, even the embalming fluid. And I'm not a cremation type of person, so just natural burial, sort of. You don't need a box. Or maybe you do. Oh, have you heard how many people they buried alive, guys? Don't look at that one. Oh, my goodness. They used to put bells on the outside of the grave with a string that went down into the coffin. So if the person woke up, they could ring the bell and anyone above ground would hear that bell and realise someone had been buried alive. And it used to happen more often than you think. Shocking, guys. Look it up, or I might do a video on it one day. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so they've been on the verge of launching since 2013. Ms. Wee Mazick says the delay has been necessary to educate people about the system's potential. She means the delay has been necessary to talk people into it. That's what I think. Really, who wants that? While there are doubters, the process seems to have attracted an international following with a network of dedicated supporters in Europe and America. What, 2 people? Because this is what the news does. They make you think that, it's attracted international following. And it could be like 2 people. Seriously, guys, tell me what you think, because I wouldn't want to go this way. We are the only organisation within the burial organisations that has a fan club. Legends in their own lunchtime, are they? We have a supporting team which is called Promessa Friends. And we have an interest from 95 countries in the world, Miss Wee Mazick says. Yeah, is that from the country's governments? I don't think that would be from the people. And who are your friends? I'd really like to know that. The problem with cremation. In most Western countries, cremation is king. In Australia, more than 70% of people opt for incineration over burial. But it's a relatively new phenomenon. Cremation was rare in the developed world until the late 19th century and only started to gain popularity after World War I, says historian and author Thomas LeCure. Sorry, guys, I've butchered that. So they didn't do it till after World War I. Started cremating people. Did they get any ideas from anywhere? Like the Nazi scientists they brought over, or? Burial customs are actually very conservative. They change at a glacial pace, he says. However, the 20th century progressed and urbanisation grew apace. Incineration began to be seen as progressive because it dramatically reduced the amount of land needed for cemeteries. There you go. Why didn't they name the title Saving Space on Cemeteries or something, new technology or something like that? They didn't have to put it the way they did, which made it that was very inappropriate, I think, for news to say that. But concerns over pollution and climate change have sparked a rethink among environmentalists. Oh, Matt, this could be a good thing. The average human body takes up to 1.5 hours to cremate at a temperature of around 1,000 degrees Celsius. So there's a significant energy cost to cremation. And as bodies and caskets are burnt, they can release all kinds of pollutants. You've got airborne mercury coming out of the chimney, businessman John Humphreys says. Businessman. You've, of course, it's a business. You've got carcinogenic fumes. You've got toxic fumes and particulate matter all coming out and being spread around the surrounding areas. Well, yeah, okay, I'd agree with that. And yeah, as like I'm just against breathing fumes and particulate matter. I think we should just be buried, guys. A watered-down alternative of sorts. Mr. Humphries runs a firm. Oh, here we go. Mr. Humphries, who says that cremation does all that right now. He's going to tell you how he's going to do it. Mr. Humphries runs a firm called Aquamation International, which offers its own alternative to cremation, a process known as alkaline hydrolysis. Jesus. Am I going to have to do this one again too? Unlike cremation, the system is already up and running in the United States. It goes by the names water cremation and green cremation and is approved and regulated in 15 states. Alkaline hydrolysis involves placing a body into a long stainless steel container and allowing boiling water to constantly wash over the corpse until the flesh, muscle, and other bodily organs liquefy. No, thank you either. A chemical catalyst, usually potassium hydroxide, is used to affect the decomposition. When the process is complete, all that's left are bleached bones and liquid human runoff. Dissolved is technically not right, Mr. Humphries says. Well, I don't care if dissolved is not technically right. That's what it sounds like to me. All but the bones. It's not dissolved, it's broken down into the chemical components the body is made up from. So, in other words, dissolved. Do these people think people are stupid? Mr. Humphries has been offering the service in Australia for the better part of a decade, but only a few Australians have so far chosen it as end-of-life option. No, thank you. Still, he's convinced water cremation has a viable future, and I'm sure he does. He's the business owner, obviously. Novelty aside, he says the process is no more bizarre than the idea of putting a person's corpse into an oven and interning the resultant ashes in an ornamental urn. Yes, well, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't like to do that either. And I don't want anyone to do that to me either. And like Miss Wee Masick, he stresses the environmental pluses. With this process, it doesn't simply reduce the enormous amount of pollution that comes from cremation and from burial. It eliminates it totally, Mr. Humphries says. This is 100% pollution free. Oh, really? Where are you going to put the slush? The only pollution you could possibly get from it would be the generation of electricity that actually runs the process, which is probably about 1/10 of the electricity that a cremation uses. Again, what about the liquefied people? In the US, some concerns have been expressed about the disposal of human liquid. While Mr. Humphries dismisses any health issues, of course he does admit he's not comfortable with the use of the biological waste as fertilizer. Okay, would you like to eat plants grown from human blood and bone? You know how you buy blood and bone as a fertilizer? Well, how about human blood and bone? He blames the slow adoption of the technology on a lack of competition in the funeral business. No, I blame the slow adoption of the technology on your ideas. The big players, he argues, have no economic incentive to offer new alternatives to traditional body disposal practices. Maybe because that's how it's been done for hundreds of years. Not embalming, but just burial. The University of Sydney's Sandra van der Laan oh dear, who recently co-authored a report into the Australian death care sector agrees. Industry concentration and the need for regulatory change. Professor van der Laan research, oh, that sounds like someone out of Seinfeld or something, guys. Professor van der Laan's research indicates around 40% of the industry is concentrated in the hands of just one provider, with a consequent lack of scope and diversity in the services offered. It's dead people, guys. Like, seriously, they're trying to make a full-blown... It's already a business as it is, right? But what they're trying to do here is make it into, like, some sort of freakish technical corporation or something. That's what it's going to be. Do you know what Soylent Green is? This is it. This is it, except they're not talking about putting it in people's drinks or anything. But anyway, yeah, I could imagine what they're going to do with that. And no thank you again. I don't think it's part of the funeral industry's ambit to be trying new things around disposal of the dead, she says. Yeah, they've built their business models on the traditional funeral services, so branching off into new industries is going to be more expensive. Yeah, and you're going to run across all sorts of blowback, guys. No. She says industry concentration has also played a part in limiting the uptake of natural burial options. Natural or green burials involve placing bodies in biodegradable coffins or simple shrouds, and that means you don't fill a cemetery with plastic cushions, metal coffin parts, and embalming chemicals. Exactly. They also do away with other traditional accoutrements of burial, such as a headstone, crypt, or even landscaping. Professor van der Laan argues regulatory reform is long overdue and has called for harmonisation of state laws. Current rules and procedures, she said, have not kept pace with change and could limit future options. Are you kidding me? That's exactly what they want to do. They want to turn it technological and have a corporation running it. And what are they going to do with the liquid? You really don't think they're just going to store the liquid somewhere? Do you? Crucially, she said there's also a need for greater public awareness around the choices available when dealing with end-of-life decisions, because grief can impede decision-making. People are quite often encouraged to deal with it very quickly. For most people, I think they'd get a bit hurried, she said. One of the problems that we have in much of Australia is that the only people allowed onto a cemetery and crematoria sites are funeral directors, licensed people. But you can do a lot of that whole funeral process yourself. You can take the body home as long as you can keep it cool. What? In Australia? Right, how many of you got bodies at home? Come on, tell me. You've got to be kidding. You can take the body home as long as you keep it cool. Well, how long are you going to keep it at home for? Oh, there's always stuffing. You can get the person stuffed. Taxidermy? That's a bit strange too, that. Another option involves direct committal, where a corpse is taken directly from the place of death to a crematorium. Burial at sea and on private land is also permitted under certain circumstances. Oh, really? There are more choices than what we believe, Professor van der Laan says. I'm not saying that those choices are for everybody, but some people would like to have a bit more control over what happens when they're dealing with their loved ones after they died. What do you think, guys? This is just one hell of a weird article. So weird. And the title of it, like... Oh, that's so... I wonder if this is communication. somewhere along the line. Oh, we found a new technology for disposing of bodies. This is just so strange, this article, guys. And, I know, like, you have to keep up with science, and the news is supposed to report on all these new science, but the way they've worded it is so strange. And I didn't know half that stuff at the end, did you? Did you know you can take a body home with you? I didn't. As long as you keep it cool. Install a big fridge in your house and open the door every now and then and say hello? I don't know. Let me know what you think of this, guys. This is just the strangest thing I've read. And something's wrong with it, and I can't put my finger on it. Well, I can. The title's wrong, and some of the wording is quite... Yeah, how you going? Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. This was just so strange. I had to do a video on it. Okay, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.